Good afternoon and welcome to IBA News this Thursday, the 18th of August. I'm Eilon Aslan-Levy, joining you live from Jerusalem. Unveiling his policy for dealing with Palestinian terror on the West Bank, Defence Minister Avigdor Lieberman unveiled a carrot-and-stick approach, displaying a coloured map depicting areas considered terror hotspots and areas not involved in anti-Israeli activities. Lieberman also plans to engage in dialogue with Palestinian officials other than President Mahmoud Abbas. IBA's Margot Dudkiewicz has the story.
It's a simple plan. It hugs the Palestinians who support coexistence and punishes those who support terror. The new 400 million shekel plan, to be implemented over the next 2 years, aims at changing dynamics in the West Bank, clamping down on Palestinians involved in terror, and boosting the economy and quality of life in areas of calm. Lieberman, who's held the post for just months, says those who support coexistence will prosper, and those who opt for terror will lose out. He insists his plan has been fully coordinated with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Areas marked in green on the map represent towns and villages where no terrorists have come from, with some areas already dubbed eligible to receive immediate benefits, such as a soccer field in Bedouin, a hospital to be built in Beit Sahur, an industrial zone west of Nablus, and an economic corridor between Jericho and Jordan. Red and yellow areas in the Hebron area and southern West Bank are considered to be hostile to Israel. Lieberman describes them as the burden of security. It is these areas, he says, that will see increased raids, cancellation of work permits, a heightened IDF presence, increased enforcement and collective punishment. Lieberman harshly opposes returning the bodies of terrorists to their families, even though it is a position Attorney General Hymen and the Shin Bet Security Service do not support. Referring to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas as an obstacle, the Defence Minister proposes to circumvent the Palestinian leader, opting to engage in dialogue with other Palestinian officials in the West Bank. At the same time, he insists he has no desire to meddle in internal Palestinian affairs. Seeking to boost communications, Lieberman announced the creation of an Israeli news site in the Arabic language for residents of the West Bank and Gaza. The site is expected to go live in January next year and will be run by the coordinator of government activities in the territories. Summing up his approach, Lieberman quoted Zev Jabotinsky, who once said, "One must be a generous and cruel genius." Margot Dudkiewicz, IBA News.
Defence Minister Lieberman's new policy is bound for failure, or so argues Dr. Ronnie Shaked, an expert on Palestinian affairs at the Truman Institute. He told IBA's Aria O'Sullivan that no Palestinians would openly and directly cooperate with the Israeli administration without Palestinian Authority approval.
I don't understand the army, and especially the coordinator, why he is doing this. Because in the first Intifada, the second Intifada, and during so many years since 1980s, so many people who tried to go against the stream of the PLO were killed by the people, or boycotted by the government, or by the people, Palestinian people. Again, we are talking here about people who were crystallized since the first Intifada, the second Intifada, and now, after so many years, they are looking just for political solution. They are not looking for better lives.
The defense minister's plan calls for dividing up the territories into the good villages and bad villages. Is this collective punishment?
First of all, it's collective punishment. Secondly, I don't even recall one village from the West Bank that Palestinian terrorists were not coming from it. It's hard to find even one village that just 3 or 4 people were arrested from this village. Just to give you an example, since 1967, more than 700,000 Palestinians were arrested by Israel. So just imagine, can you find one family without people or without members who were in the prison? It's hard to find it. And secondly, nobody's going to cooperate with him because, as I said, the Palestinians today are fighting. Their ethos is a Palestinian national ethos. I'm not talking about Abu Mazen. Perhaps Abu Mazen is not good for Mr. Lieberman, but Abu Mazen is good for the Palestinians, and he's serving the Palestinian people.
Let's go back to Defense Minister Lieberman again. He is coming with his own political agenda, but he's getting advice from the defense establishment, the civil administration. Is this amateurish step that he's taking?
As I said, I don't understand the army, and I don't understand the officers who are sitting there, that they have some experience and that they know the situation. It's not. I'm surprised to hear that he said that Mr. Lieberman said that his new plane is coordinated with the army and with the high officers of the army. I don't know why, and I don't know how it's going, and perhaps he's coming with a new agenda, but without understanding the situation in the ground. Lieberman, don't remember, he's living in the West Bank. I don't think that he's going one day to go out of his house and to give it to the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people, the first demand is to take out all the settlers out of the West Bank. It's not going to work.
Rana, you have your finger on the pulse of Palestinian society and the Palestinian Authority. How long is Abbas going to be able to stay in control, and who's coming after him?
First of all, I don't recall one king or one president or one leader from the Arab people that just resigned. That first of all. Secondly, when there is no alternative for Abu Mazen today in the Palestinian society, exactly as we don't have alternative for Mr. Netanyahu. It's the same game here. So it's not a question when gonna be changes here. There are gonna be no changes, and the people who will come after Abu Mazen, they're gonna be exactly as Abu Mazen, perhaps much more extreme than Abu Mazen.
In domestic politics, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has successfully rebuffed an attempt to weaken his hold on the Likud party. IBA's political reporter Kalev Ben-David joins me now with the story. Kalev.
Thanks, Alon. Earlier this week, Transportation Minister Yisrael Katz appeared to have scored an impressive victory against the Prime Minister in their growing struggle over Netanyahu's near total control of the ruling Likud party. On Tuesday, the Likud Secretariat, which is headed by Katz and comprised of Likud Knesset members and officials of the party's Central Committee, voted new regulations that would prevent Netanyahu from appointing key party functionaries without prior approval from the Secretariat. But a subsequent one-on-one meeting between the Prime Minister and Katz, after reports of intense political pressure being put on the Transport Minister, resulted in the decision being suspended, an agreement that a special committee be appointed to examine the party's administrative procedures. Katz has made no secret of his ambitions to one day succeed Netanyahu as Likud chairman, and has been trying over the last few years to make the party's institutions more independent of the Prime Minister's influence. This week, Katz may have taken that effort a step too far and found himself having to backtrack. Alon?
Kalev, you explained why Minister Katz launched a challenge against the Prime Minister, but why do we think he backed down?
Alon, surely Minister Katz can look and see what happened to other Likud ministers that perhaps gained too much popularity or influence in the Likud, or tried to directly challenge the Prime Minister. There is Gurion Airport, who is now out of government altogether. Moshe Kachlon, who left and founded his own party, is now the finance minister. So he really has to be careful here. There is growing speculation that this will be Prime Minister Netanyahu's last term in office. It's reasonable that Yisrael Katz wants to start laying groundwork to maybe be his successor, but he really has to walk a tightrope here, and this week he stumbled.
Okay, thank you very much, Kalev. Turkey has submitted the agreement to restore full relations with Israel to its Grand National Assembly for ratification, the final step needed for the deal's approval. Diplomatic ties broke down following the 2010 Israeli commando raid on the Turkish ship Mavi Marmara as it attempted to break Israel's naval blockade of the Gaza Strip, resulting in the deaths of 9 Turkish citizens after an ambush on Israeli forces. A reconciliation agreement was signed in June between the governments with conditions that include Israel's paying Turkey $20 million in compensation, the shielding of Israeli soldiers and officials from any Turkish legal action stemming from the Mavi Marmara raid, and the initiation of talks to build an undersea pipeline to convey Israeli natural gas to Turkey. Approval from the Turkish parliament for the agreement was delayed by last month's unsuccessful coup attempt against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The Turkish government has pledged that its lawmakers will greenlight the reconciliation deal before breaking for their recess later this month. 3 soldiers responsible for throwing a stun grenade at a group of Palestinian men were court-martialed yesterday. The sergeant responsible for the unit was found by his commander to have acted contrary to what was expected of him and was sentenced to prison. However, there was no mention of the length of the sentence. 2 other soldiers were confined to their base. The incident occurred earlier this week when Palestinian media outlets released a video clip from surveillance camera footage showing a military jeep pulling up near a group of Palestinian men, and as it pulled away, an object was thrown at them. The men are then seen fleeing as the stun grenade explodes. Contrary to earlier reports, the army said the incident occurred in Kafra Lakif, a village southwest of Nablus, and not in Ramallah as initially reported. Palestinian students and officials staged a protest outside a primary school slated for demolition in the Bedouin village of Khan el-Ahmar near Kfar Adumim. UN officials said if Israel demolishes the school, it would be a violation of international humanitarian law. We get more from IBA's Arieh O'Sullivan.
This school has become the focus of the latest efforts by Israel to demolish illegal Arab buildings in the territories and European-backed Bedouin to defy Israeli authorities. The Khan el-Ahmar primary school was built with old tires and mud and is across the highway from Kfar Adumim. Built with funding from Italian NGOs, the controversial school is located on state land slated for the Israeli settlement. The High Court of Justice is scheduled to rule on the school's demolition next week. The spokesman for the Bedouin community says that Prime Minister Netanyahu told the Italian ambassador last week that the school would be shut and students moved. In defiance to the news, the Palestinian Authority opened the school immediately. Palestinian Authority officials were joined by foreign diplomats and ambassadors.
In particular, we continue to call on the Israeli authorities to fulfill their obligations as an occupying power and to rescind all policies and practices that directly or indirectly lead to the forcible transfer of Palestinian Bedouin communities. The broader context is Israel's prolonged occupation and a general lack of respect for international humanitarian law and international human rights law.
The civil administration has been under intensive pressure lately by Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria to demolish unauthorized Palestinian and Bedouin structures, a move that has already drawn the protest of U.S. and European officials. Meanwhile, for the 170 boys and girls in this school, classes continue. Arieh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
In Warsaw, Israel has cemented its reputation as a competitive debating superpower with a record performance at the European Universities Debating Championship. After 9 preliminary rounds, 3 Israeli teams progressed to the main runoff, with Hebrew University's Eitan Ha'oz and Benji Kalman named 8th best team in Europe. They faced off in the quarterfinals against Tel Aviv A, world grand finalists Dan Lahav and Eyal Hayut Man. 6 Israeli teams made the break to the English as a second language quarter-finals, with Tel Aviv A also named best team in that category. Tel Aviv is defending its title as European champion in the English as a second language category, having won last year in Vienna. The finals will take place tomorrow, and we wish our debaters the best of luck. At 6 o'clock this evening, Nachum Hymen, composer, songwriter and Israel Prize laureate, will be laid to rest at the Menucha Nachona Cemetery in Kfar Saba. Hymen died yesterday at the age of 82. Israeli leaders paid tribute to the songwriter, who spent his last years collecting songs and compositions by his contemporaries to establish an archive of Hebrew songs and music. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Hymen one of the greatest songwriters the State of Israel has had, saying, "The songs that he left behind in our hearts, the love of the homeland and people, and will accompany Israel for many generations to come." Former President Shimon Peres declared the country had lost a superbly creative person who left us with his lifetime achievement, Hebrew songs and Israeli melodies. Hymen is survived by his wife, 2 daughters, one of whom is known singer C. Hymen, and grandchildren. A unique art fair is opening in Jerusalem tonight. Titled Masterpieces, it features the work of 60 Israeli artists and is reportedly the largest contemporary Israeli art fair. Over 300 works will be exhibited. The Rosenbach Contemporary Art Gallery will be hosting the event, which runs through to the 6th of September. Original works of art from promising young artists will be sold at affordable prices and include paintings, sculptures, drawings and photographs. It's a chance for art lovers to get a glimpse at some up-and-coming talents new to the scene. The Rosenbach Contemporary was established by 58-year-old Uri Rosenbach, an ultra-orthodox art dealer from the US, who made Aliyah in 1979. That's Masterpieces at 16 King David Street, open from 11 to 7, Sunday through Thursday, and Fridays from 10 till 2. Today is expected to be the busiest day of the summer at Gurion Airport, with officials estimating some 83 passengers would either land or take off. Airport officials said 43,000 passengers were expected to depart Israel today, and just over 40,000 are expected to arrive in the country. Since July, close to 4 million passengers have passed through the airport, a 4% increase for the same period last year. The most popular destinations chosen by Israelis vacationing abroad this summer included Greece, the United States, Italy and Germany. And finally, something to leave a sweet taste in your mouth for the weekend. Here's a look behind the scenes at how ice cream is made. Have you ever wondered how ice cream is made? I'm here at the Ben & Jerry's factory in Be'er Tovia to find out some tricks of the trade. Ben & Jerry's has 5 factories worldwide, and one is right here in southern Israel, producing tens of thousands of tubs a day for Israeli consumers and the European market. First, cream and milk are unloaded into these huge silos and pumped through pipes into the factory, where they're all sloshed together with sugar, stabilizers, egg yolks and milk powder, and sometimes cocoa too. This base mix is pasteurized, homogenized and cooled down to -4 or 5 degrees.
We need to put some flavor, right? It's either vanilla extract or banana puree. You know that we are using real banana. And then it's ready for the filling.
Let's go see.
Another very huge secret in ice cream is the air amount. Every ice cream cube that you're eating includes air inside. The question is how much air? Okay? Usually it's about 50%, 50% air. Our ice cream have about 20% air.
So more calories per tub if it's only 20% air.
Yes.
Since the flavors are mixed in the vat, the factory produces only 1 or 2 flavors a day. Today, we're making chocolate fudge brownie, which gets ground up, dropped into a stream of cold cream, and pumped through this tube into the filling machine.
If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing.
The tubs pass through a metal detector to check no foreign objects have accidentally fallen in, and then get spritzed with an expiry date.
When the ice cream comes out of the machine, it's frozen but not frozen solid. Have a look. It's still nice and gloopy. And good.
Nearly there. The ice cream then gets blasted through -30 degrees Celsius.
And then in the final stage, when the ice cream is all wrapped up, they take it here into the deep freeze for storage. It's absolutely freezing in here.
Bon appetit.
Eilon Aslan-Levy for IBA News.
In finance, shares are down on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange and the shekel is mixed in trading. In weather, expect bright skies and maybe time for ice cream with an incremental increase in temperatures over the weekend. And that's all for today and this week. From the entire IBA team, it's a happy Tu B'Av for tomorrow and Shabbat Shalom, live from Jerusalem.